Today we're going to study our third market structure for the course. It's monopolistic competition. And if we look down at the graph at the bottom of the page, last time I drew this graph which shows the competitiveness of the market and the number of firms. And we've seen two cases. Perfect competition in the upper right that's both competitive and has a lot of firms. And then monopoly in the lower left, which has only one firm and very little competition. And today what we're going to do is study a market structure that has elements of both monopoly and perfect competition, hence the name. There will only be one firm producing any given product, but the market will be very competitive. There's free entry, and all of the products are closed substitutes. So a good example of a monopolistically competitive industry is the pizza industry in New York. There's only one firm making any given type of pizza. So there might be Steve's Pizza Shop, Ray's Pizza Shop, Sabero's Pizza. But anybody can just buy up a storefront and start cooking pizza. And all the pizza are pretty similar and pretty close substitutes for each other. So monopolistic competition has high competition, but only one firm making any specific product. Profit maximization works the same way it did for the monopoly and the perfect competition firms. We equate marginal revenue to marginal cost. Here we can see the marginal cost curve and average total cost curve drawn in on the diagram. We also see the demand curve, and the real question is, what is marginal revenue going to look like for this firm? Since it's a monopoly, it faces a downward sloping demand curve. In perfect competition, remember, the firms were price takers. They had to just accept a perfectly elastic demand curve and sell at the market price. With a monopoly, they face a downward sloping demand curve so they have an ability to be price makers instead of price. Here, since we're dealing with only a single firm in the market, once again, they're going to be a price maker, and they face a marginal revenue curve that slopes down below the demand curve. So the profit maximizing quantity will be the intersection of MC and MR. So this will be their Q that they want to pick, and then they'll charge the highest price they can get for their from the consumers. So we go up to the demand curve at that point, Q, and we can find the associated price. So the P and Q in blue label the price that this firm's going to charge and the quantity that they're going to produce. Then we can see the difference between the price that they're being paid per unit and their average total cost at that point. That would be this vertical distance. So we see this is the average profit per unit. They make Q total units. So this blue box that I'm highlighting represents profit. Since there's free entry, in the short run there can be profit, but it will induce entry, and if in the short run there's losses, it'll induce exit. So in the long run, we're going to have a zero profit condition for stability, just like we did in the perfect competition case. Stability requires that there will be entry or exit until we get to a point where there's zero profit. But notice in this case that we can't use the shortcut of P equals minimum ATC, because in each individual market, there's only one producer who produces until marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So we want to think of the firms as monopolies, but then add this ingredient of long-run entry and exit like in perfect competition. It's sort of a blended model. So graphically, what does entry look like? The idea is that new products enter the market and they steal some of the demand. So if our pizza shop faced demand curve D1, and then a whole bunch of pizza shops open nearby, suppose I have Steve's Pizza, and then John's Pizza open nearby, he would steal some of my business because some of my customers might prefer his style of baking pizzas. So my demand curve is going to shift downward to D2. My marginal revenue curve will likewise shift down, so here's MR1 associated with D1. MR2 will be further inward. So you can do some comparative statics and see that if my marginal cost curve looks like this, the Q that I output will go from here, Q1, down to here, Q2. So competition will push all the firms in the market to produce less each individually, although collectively, since there's more of them, they could produce more as a whole. So that leads to our review question. In the long run, how much profit will a monopolistically competitive firm make? And second, calculate this firm's profit using this diagram. Both of these questions are very similar to ones that we looked at when we studied perfect competition and monopoly. So, those models are complicated, but we're going to take this class to review those two models in addition to mastering monopolistic competition.